Hello, hi friends. Happy Monday. Happy start of another week. I feel like February went by really quickly. January took like 3 years to finish, to get through, and February was like a week long. And now we're in March, so happy March. Hopefully, wherever you are, the weather's okay. In the British Columbia area or where I am near Vancouver, it's actually starting to feel like spring. So I am happy about that. Um, just because, yeah, we've gone through a lot of rainy days and sort of cold and gloomy days. And I'm looking forward to warmer, spring like weather and more sun. Sun's always good because, I feel like going outside, being out in nature, going for a hike, all those sort of outdoorsy things that you don't want to do in the winter. So hopefully you had a good weekend, and it was somewhat relaxing, if at all, but hopefully this week isn't too intense. let's let's try and bring down the intensity. We're going to do a little bit of just relaxing, kind of journaling, planning, some drawing, and we'll talk about stationery and stationery tools, things that make us happy, things that bring us some comfort, some relief, some relaxation time, some, yeah, get us sort of settled in and ready for a new week. So that's where I'm at. I'm ready for a new week. And I'm also ready to update my planner and sort of get started for this week. So let me know what you're up to. If you're lurking, having me on in the background while you work, that's totally cool. If you want to chat or ask questions, also very cool. Feel free to hang out and we'll just kind of have a chill vibe today. It's Monday after all. We're not going to do anything too intense today. I don't like to start off the week with a lot of things going on. I just kind of like to ease into it. So if you're like that too, then join me. Update your planner if you want, do some journaling, or just kind of, just chill and hang out. I'm going to be working in my Hemlock and Oak weekly and daily undated planner. This is the one I've been using every week in my stream, and the way I'm using it is kind of doing back planning, memory keeping type of sorts. So it's basically looking at the previous week and setting up my schedule in terms of what actually happened and what I was up to, what places I went to, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a back planning kind of situation. And yeah, so just kind of having a bird's eye view of how the week went overall, what are some of the things that I was up to in that week is helpful for me for reference purposes. So, in the future or later, looking back on things that were done during a week, including, school schedules and stuff like that as well. So I kind of like doing that. It's very minimalistic-ish, so not a lot going on. For this purpose of memory keeping, I don't like to put too much on the page. So, but I do like the vertical weekly sort of look, especially if you're kind of just looking at the whole week and not adding too many notes and stuff like that. So it's not like I need a lot of space to write things. It's more so that I like to see, timelines and sort of each day stacked in a vertical way. So that's how I use that's how I use the weekly layout. And the monthlies, I actually updated my February monthly spread yesterday, and it's very simple. So basically all I do here is I note down what flowers I drew in the daily section, because that's where I draw flowers. If this is your first time joining, I'll walk through each section as I sort of tackle it. So, and then the month, and so where the sort of days fall, basically I'm just jotting down or highlighting things that stood out in terms of things that were done. So kind of things that I have in the weekly section, but you know, it's more so on a monthly view that I like to see things that highlighted that month for me, if that makes sense. So it's very simple. I don't even really need to use the monthly. It's not like I'm really going to refer to it at all. Maybe, you know, just a running list of the flowers that I've been drawing, just so that I, you know, just so I'm aware of which flowers I'm practicing. And hopefully there isn't a lot of duplicates. There isn't so far, I don't think so. That's just kind of nice to have. So in terms of the daily pages, I've been doing some floral drawings from a reference photos that are in this book called the Flower Color Guide. And I've been trying to do that. I know I haven't been able to do it on a daily basis, and I kind of tackled this with the expectation that I probably won't be doing it on a daily basis, just because it is time consuming in the way that I have to kind of sit and focus on this. And a lot of times, you know, there are other things I could be doing, and it's kind of tough to pull myself out of, you know, the daily sort of, I have a task list, I have things I need to get done, but instead I'm going to do this. So I'm still working on that, and the stream really helps because it's a dedicated time that I've, you know, sort of set aside, time to draw flowers. So for me, that's really helpful in a creative way, to do that, and hopefully, you know, doing more of that. But I'll take what I can get. I'll do what I can do. So I'm going to start with the weekly, and I'll just kind of, you know, set it up and talk through what I'm doing. And then we'll move on to the daily section to do some drawing today. I'm just going to leave that there. So because it's undated, basically it means you have to date everything. There are enough pages for all the weeklies and all the dailies, but I'm just kind of dating it as I go because I know that I won't be able to do every single week, every single day, and I'm okay with that. That's kind of why I like undated planners too, is if you're not using it for the purpose of planning every single day, then it's kind of nice to not have that pressure of like having that date stare back at you and having to fill it with something. So I kind of like that as well. Okay, so we were in February last week, and we had our first day of March. So for hand lettering, I like to practice with the Tombow Fudenosuke soft tip or hard tip. This is the hard tip. You can also get a soft tip, which just means you can get broader lines and it's a little bit softer to work with. But the hard tip I like because it's controlled. So it gives you a little bit more control over your lines, depending on how much pressure you put on the pen or the tip. And it's great for if you're working with a small space or limited space. And just overall, if you want your lettering to look a little bit more stylistic or like fancier, nicer. And then I like my fine liners or mono drawing pens for dating, and generally like writing details and things. Okay. So now that it's dated, I usually go in and, hi Needle Girl, how's it going? You have an undated planner this year and love it? Yeah, there's something about undated planners that I know it's a little bit extra work to date them and sort of set them up and remember to kind of, you know, you have to get the dates right, which like, you know, it is what it is. But I don't know, it's minimal setup, I think, if you're comparing it to like a bullet journal where you're setting up from scratch. So at least this way it's all, you know, there, the layout is there. All you have to kind of do is date it, make sure you have everything that you need for the week. But, you know, I like that. I think that just the like low pressure of it is really, really nice. And you can start it whenever you want, right? You can start it in like mid-year if you wanted to, and just continue it in the next year. So yeah, it is kind of nice. So I always, I like time blocking because visually it shows me right away what to expect for the day, for the week. And I'm a very visual person, so I take visual cues easier than I do if it's written or numbers or something like that. So when I see colors right away, my mind sort of processes like what it stands for, what it means. So having a color code or a key helps in that way too. So if you're using kind of a palette or a set, markers or whatever, I'm using dual brush pens. You can use highlighters, anything like that. And I kind of like having a code that I use over and over, because then, to me, it makes sense. If I see that color, it denotes something, specific. So let's see. All right. I do use the timelines. I find them very helpful for, time blocking, and also just in general writing, like if something happened, writing it around when it is. But I'm not like super finicky about the exact time. So if it's, where I'm kind of highlighting school schedule or appointments, I kind of go in the range of that time. So I'm not super picky about making sure that it's the exact time of appointments or things like that, especially when you're back planning. If you're planning your week, then for sure you want to hit the right times and make sure that you're kind of time blocking the correct sort of timeline. But for memory keeping, or for kind of looking back and reflecting, or visually setting up a layout like this, it doesn't have to be super, detailed or time oriented. Anyway, so last Monday, Twitch stream, and we did some journaling and drawing. And I like that it's become a routine now to do this, because it's really helpful for me. Because otherwise it's, it's so easy to just be like, I'm not going to do it this week, or, I'm just going to skip it. It's kind of nice having company doing this. So. And I'm using a fountain pen to write sort of the details and fill in everything on this page. And I'm using a Leonardo Momento Zero with a reverse architect nib. So it's a custom ground nib by Gena from Custom Nib Studio. On the correct side, you get kind of a fine line, but on the reverse side, if you flip over the pen, you get a reverse italic. So it just kind of gives a little bit of an interesting contrast between the two writing styles, which I kind of like. So that way I'm not writing with two different fountain pens. I can just write everything with one fountain pen, but make it look different. So it's kind of cool to do that. All right. So that's kind of the important things that happened last week. Highlights, stuff like that. So, and I kind of keep it that way. I want it to be a little bit more minimal than, you know, too much going on. How's it going, Indy? Good afternoon. Happy time zone. I'm just doing some back planning or memory keeping in my planner, and I'm going to do a little bit of stamping in it as well because it's fun, and I like to dig out my stamps when I can. Why didn't this channel show up until now? Like, did you not get the notification? Because Twitch be twitching. It is what it is. Okay. So for stamping, I personally really like the VersaMagic Chalk Ink Dewdrops because they come in a variety of colors. They're very portable, so you can stack them. And also because the ink doesn't ghost or bleed through. It's very, it's not that it's muted, it's just that it's not as saturated as some of the other inks or stamp pads that you can get. So, so they're kind of my preferred stamp pads. But if I know the paper can really handle, you know, saturated inks, then I like my Shashihara stamp pads because they are oil based, and yeah, they're very like saturated and vibrant, and really fun as well. This is a great color too. It's called Night Sky. So if you're kind of into a more, you know, dark blues, nothing that's too bright. Still a nice color though. Okay, so male. I think Twitch hates me. Oh no. Well, we like you, Indy. I'm debating if I want more coffee or take a nap. Oh, it's a tough choice. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if you're the type of person who once you have coffee, you can't sleep for a while. I'm the opposite now. I guess it's my age. But it doesn't matter when I have a coffee. I can go to sleep and be fine. It doesn't actually keep me awake. So it does give me a little bit of a boost though, which is nice. But I do like my teas during the day, or in the morning at least, because it gives me a little energy, a little bit of a boost, but not like bouncing off the walls either. I can sleep when I drink coffee. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, doesn't really affect the sleep cycle in an obvious way. Okay, I think I'm going to add some stickers to this spread and then be done. So I like using up washi tape and stickers that I have on these type of spreads, just to like add a little bit of decor, a little visual interest. Like if you're not going to use your washi and stickers, you know, when are you going to use it, right? So it's kind of nice to use washi tape in these books because they don't add a lot of bulk. So, you know, you get some decor in there, but it's not going to make your book too chunky. It will add a little bit, but especially if you have white space, if you like keeping your layout minimal. Oh, that's attached. If you like keeping your layouts minimal, adding a little bit of decor in terms of stickers or washi is kind of a nice way of covering up white space, not having to write too much. It kind of balances out the page, especially if you're writing sort of in an area, because obviously this is timeline related. I don't write a lot in the afternoon and things like that, because a lot of times it revolves around my kids. So sometimes there are things in the weekend maybe, but usually I find that, you know, the block where I kind of need to write things or want to write things are usually in, you know, the morning to mid-afternoon. And so to balance that out, you can kind of put visual interest things, or like write thoughts, right? Sometimes I add this note to self and then I write like a few things just when I'm reflecting on the week, things that stood out or things that I did that, you know, I want to add like a context to it, stuff where you don't necessarily want to add it into your vertical column. That's the thing about vertical layouts, is that you're dealing with limited space if you're wanting to add more, especially if you are using it as memory keeping or something like that. So I tend to sort of reserve this area for reflecting later if I want to, adding highlights as I sort of think about the past week, things that came up, you know, so having the space is kind of helpful. But yeah, it's a cool color. Yeah, I do like that color of ink. Okay, so that's kind of the weekly layout or weekly spread. A couple of stickers, a couple of stamps. Not much happened. some little things happened, but not big things in my personal life anyway. So that, I'm good with that. So that's kind of a, you know. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the daily section. Now that the weekly is done, I'm good with that. Here are my daily pages. And again, because they're undated, there is enough for a full year. As you can see, it's kind of like a textbook style. So there is enough daily pages for a full year. I will not be using them all just because I'm not doing this on a daily basis. So we'll see what I want to do with the remaining pages. But for now, I'm just kind of taking it as it comes. And again, if you're using this type of planner for actual like planning related things, for organizing your day, writing down tasks and stuff like that, it's great. It's a great layout because it has, you know, the space where you can date it, has intentions if you want to do that. Schedule, you can do it by timeline in a column, and then it says today, and then it has these check boxes. You can either use them or ignore them. They're not super dark, and that's why I like this page, because nothing is dark, like nothing sort of jumps out at you from the page. And even though you can see everything, it's quite obvious, but it's not like it jumps out at me as like write down tasks. So For me, I'm not using this as a true planner. I'm using it more for creative things. So I've decided the daily pages are going to be more for drawing and journaling, using prompts, using references. So not a lot of thought has to go into it. I don't have to sit here and just kind of, think of things to write about. I can just use a prompt. And then the same thing with drawing. I'm not just drawing from my imagination, which I tend to do if I'm doing abstract florals or just painting flowers. But for this purpose, I am drawing from a reference. And sometimes when I've done these drawings, I just kind of randomly open up a page in this book called Flower Color Guide by Michael and Taylor Putnam. And that's kind of been fun too, just kind of randomly opening up a page and then challenging myself to just draw what I see. And it's great practice, but also sometimes, I kind of feel like a certain palette or a certain color. And I thought for today, I'm going to do this one because it's just this rich blue. It's a really nice color. So it's the iris. And I love the blue with the yellow in there as well. It's really nice and bright and just bold, which I kind of like for today. So let's be bold on this Monday. So what I do is I put away some things so I have space. Let's move stuff. Then to do this, I use a blending palette. It's also just sort of like a specialized laminated sheet. And I use these colorless blenders from Tombow. If you buy marker sets from them, sometimes the 10 marker pack has these colorless blenders in them. And they have zero color. They have no color. That's why they're called colorless. But they are a dual brush pen. So they are a brush marker. And the idea behind them is that you can use them for blending or mixing colors directly on the tip or using this blending palette sheet. So just to get myself to use these colorless blenders and to practice, a different kind of, a technique of using markers, I use these ones to mix colors and also sort of blend colors on the paper. And then for the markers, I have my marker set of dual brush markers. Sorry, it's going to be loud. Okay, here we go. My marker set of all the markers, 108 of them. And what I do is I pick out 4 or 5 colors that represent this palette for me. So it is very much just a visual thing. And this actually helps. Hi, Paw Pal Gal, you made it. I'm not sure how long you'll be able to say, yay, I'm glad that you're here now. I hope you had a good weekend. Take a nap, then drink more coffee. Here we go. Solid advice. Okay, so I use the Dual Brush Pen's color chart. And I basically just pick out a few colors that I want to work with in terms of recreating this. So for me, I want to do like a deep blue. And sometimes when you're looking at the reference chart and you pick out colors, I would always kind of test them out first because they may or may not be like true to the swatch as you see it, because sometimes they may be a little more saturated, a little less saturated. So I was kind of, let's see, I'm gonna pick one of these bright blues, I think. Let's see. Maybe purpley blue. That's nice. That's a contender. And this one might be too. And that one's a little too dark, so no. Okay, I like this blue. I'm just gonna do maybe a lighter blue to go with it. Not that. Ooh, not that. That. So that one, these two, and then a yellow. That might be okay. I'm trying to get a yellow that will represent that, and I think that's okay. And then a green. So let's do. I'll do a brighter green. Too bright. Maybe this. Oh, I like that one. I think I use this often, but yeah. Let's do the lighter green. And those are the 4 I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use. All right, let's move this. Okay. Okay. So here we go. And I always swatch the markers that I use. So then it's easy to see the palette that I started off with, even if I blend and mix colors a little bit. So, yeah, just seeing, I do use this green often. I guess I'm very drawn to it in terms of like natural kind of leaf and stem colors. So that's totally fine. It's just interesting. Hi, Daily Tea. How are you doing? I ordered my first fountain pen. It should be here Wednesday. Amazing. Awesome. You got a Pilot Kakuno and fine. Nothing fancy, but quality. A Kakuno is, yeah, it's a good pen. I always have one on standby if I need it. Just to ink something up, just to, you know it's reliable, and you made a great choice. Incredible. Yeah. Excellent to start with to see how you feel about fountain pens. Exactly, you see? Plus the price point. Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about Pilot pens, right? They've gotten pretty pricey, but the Kakuno is still worth it, I think. Yeah, they're great for drawing with. And you can find out what nib size you like. Exactly, Indy. Yeah. Yes, especially with the converters. They take converters, they take ink cartridges. You can play around with them a little bit and not worry too much about like ruining your pen, right? And test out different inks, different colors and stuff like that. And the fine is a good nib to start with. Or maybe you already know that you're a fine nib person, but it's kind of a good starting point regardless. Okay, so I start by creating the shapes and outlines of these flowers that I see in my reference photo by adding color to the page first. So I don't draw first, I actually add color first. And so in order to do that, you can of course use marker directly on the paper, but for me, like I said, I like to push myself to try different techniques and different ways of getting, you know, your color and shapes and stuff like that. So what I do is I add the color from the markers onto this blending palette. And then I use colorless blenders to pick up that color and add it to the page. And yes, it's extra steps, but it's more fun. And also it gives this watercolor effect that I really like. I'm a watercolor paint person, so I paint with watercolor and inks, so I like that look a lot. And it's this sort of soft, you know, muted, softer, gentler look. And so after I do that, then I take my markers and I add a little bit more color onto the page if I feel like I need to. But I like doing it this way too because it's a little bit more forgiving in terms of like if you add too much of a color, or if you, you know, if you want to make the shape bigger or, you know, kind of play around with it, then it's fine. And also it doesn't have to be perfect. It actually kind of has this nice look to it when it's not super perfect. It looks like a sketch, or it looks a little bit more natural to me, I think. So just looking at the drawing, I just try to mimic the shapes and the colors that I see. And then I add the detail afterwards. So doing it this way, I think, is easier, especially for me, because I don't worry too much about if it looks right, or if I'm getting, you know, if I'm drawing it correctly. So all I'm worried about is getting the shapes and the colors. And so you can see as I keep picking up the color, it looks, you know, goes down darker and then it sort of lightens up a little bit with this blender. So I'm gonna add some yellow in here. Yeah, I just refill my cartridges, but converters are good too. Yeah, I do that too, especially with a Pilot, because I'm not a fan of Pilot converters necessarily. They're fine, but I don't know. I kind of prefer, especially with the Pilot vanishing point, I actually prefer using a cartridge and then just re-inking the cartridge, filling it up with more ink when I need to, than trying to play around with the converter. But it's a good choice. It's a nice choice to have. You can choose which one you want to do. Getting lots of ink samples is always fun. Yeah, find your favorite. I'm working hard not to go too far down the rabbit hole before I even have a pen. Welcome. We are in that rabbit hole. Welcome to our rabbit hole. No, I totally get it. Especially if you're kind of starting off and like you want to try all the things, right? But like Indy said, ink samples are a great way to sample things and find out what you like. And I think you've done the right choice of going with a less expensive but still, you know, reliable, good pen to start with. Like that's a great starter pen, beginner pen, whatever. Like, you know, just to kind of find what you like and wet your feet a little bit without jumping into a gold nib or, you know, custom nib and trying to do it that way. You'll get there for sure, because now that you're here, you're going to want to try different things. And that, I think that's where it's sort of, that's where you should be, right? Just wanting to try different things, trying testers, getting ink samples, or trying out other people's pens if they let you and stuff. You need to start getting more inks than pens. Yes, you do. You do. You can't just choose a few. Yeah, that's a problem a lot of us have. If there's a pen club near you, you always like sharing samples and stuff. Yeah, if you could do a pen meetup, or, you know, if there's a pen club, then they have meetups and meetings and stuff like that. So you can just join those. It's a great way of meeting people too in your area. And I think you mentioned going to the DC Pen Show, another great way of, you know, just kind of throwing yourself in there. Go to a pen show or a stationery event or something like that. You're bound to meet other pen people who are willing to share samples and, you know, papers and stuff like that to test with. So you don't have to buy all those things, which can definitely get really expensive. But it's also why I started painting with fountain pens. With fountain pen inks, but also fountain pens, I guess. It's because I accumulated a lot of ink bottles early in my journey of like trying out different inks and different fountain pens and stuff. And so I kind of got all these ink bottles and different samples and stuff like that. And I thought, well, kind of need to find a way of using up these inks and also like swatching them and figuring out what I like about them to really play with them. Sometimes it's hard to do that if you're just inking up fountain pens, especially if you're using finer nibs. So you don't always see all the properties of the ink unless you're kind of doing like long form writing or drawing with them, coloring in stuff. And so that's why I kind of started painting with them just to get a feel for inks, and realized that I really enjoyed doing that. So I continue doing that now and today, or these days. All right, let's see. Add a little bit of light blue as well. I think I kind of forgot to add blue, the light, but that's okay. You did order more from Eric at Amarillo Stationery? Yeah, go. Go Amarillo Stationery. I wish I had a pen club in my town. Yeah. You could start one, Papa Gal, right? Definitely. If you at least know like one or two other people, or, you know, get the word out. If people want to hang out and do some journaling, do some pen swatching and like that. Two of my favorite streamers. Yes, add Pen Addict to that. It'll be perfect, right? I did order more from Eric. I saw that. That's something I was thinking about the other day. It feels insane to think about coloring in with traditional fountain pen. Yeah, unless you're using a stub or flex or a Fude nib too. It could be fun. Yeah. It is tough, like unless you're using a wide nib or a small coloring sheet or a small image that you're coloring in, sketching and stuff. I've been trying to do a no-buy, but keep failing at pens and inks. You see? Trying. That's why I do a low buy. I'm on a current low buy where I'm just like, I'm very intentional about the kinds of the pens, the inks, the just stationery in general. Just because I want to try and focus more on when I go to pen shows or stationery events, because that's where I want to sort of touch things, right? You're like there looking at stuff. And I want to like pick up things more when I'm there physically versus like it's so easy to just order things online, and I'd want to try and not do that as much. Oh, cool. Yeah. You do use fine and extra fine ones to color in. There's a good club in Indiana, but it's an hour drive from me. Yeah. Though I have to drive into Vancouver City, and that can be around an hour or longer depending on traffic or how I'm getting there. So, but they're your people, right? So it kind of makes it worth it. Yeah, you do. I have seen you in other streams, Daily T. We drag you into ink stuff. Sorry, not sorry. I know. I mean, I do like to show off inks and stuff, but I also like to kind of focus on like using them. Use your inks. Use your ink samples. Use what you have. Get more if you want, but definitely use them. So, I'm just gonna add a little bit of color directly onto the page too, just to darken up some areas a little bit. Especially where it's like really vibrant. The blue, especially there. It's like really nice and dark. And so adding a little bit of color there. And then I'm going to soften that a little because it's very dark. So let's color that in a little bit. I didn't realize it was going to be this dark, but that's okay. I'm going to add a little bit of blue here too. And soften that a little too. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Hi, Spicy Miso. How's it going? I have something cool to show you. Oh. That's kind of funny, is it? I accidentally dropped my... This is why I don't use that. Because, oh. Your TWSBI, oh, the TWSBI Eco just cracked. Yeah, my ink order from Verismo Press. This pen is too uncomfortable to hold. Oh, yeah. So good. Common gripes. My wife suggested this weekend I try 3D printing some pens. Oh, interesting. That would be cool. Let us know if you do try it. I still haven't gone to a pen show. You were going to go to Ohio last year, but that fell through, Indy. One of these days, I hope you're able to make it to one. That is definitely an experience to have. Yeah, just avoiding work by watching this stream. That's why I'm here, to distract everyone. If I'm going to be doing this with my time, I might as well just pull other people in. Much better today. You're watching your favorite peeps. Aw, I'm glad you're doing much better, Indy. Avoiding work, yeah. Lovely. Welcome. Okay, so I think I'm good with this in terms of the color that's there and the shapes and stuff. So I'm just going to use this reference now to draw in some of the details a little bit. So let's see if I can adjust this so we can see. And before that, actually, I'm going to swatch the colors. Just so I have that here. Do it there. All right, and then to add the details, I'm going to use a fine liner or a mono drawing pen in 005, which is their finest tip, and also kind of like a needle point or an ultra extra fine, just the thinnest point. It gives you the finest line, so don't have to just use it very gently to get those lines. So we have 533, 565, 055 and 158. Let's put that in there. We're good to go. So you can see how there's kind of this varying shades just by adding it using a colorless blender. Actually, I want to add a little bit more green color. I just realized I didn't do that, so I'm going to do that. So going over with the marker, you can play with shadow a little bit, and again, contrast in color. So that's kind of nice as well. Yeah, who can create a really nice pilot converter? One that works really well, holds a lot of ink, and is not annoying to work with. I love your flower notebook. Thank you. Avoiding work. Yeah. Yeah, I wish someone would. Some nibs are universal in a way. Yeah, there's Bach and Yovo and other generic Schmidt also, depending on the kind of pen, I guess, you're getting. I put a trash sticker on all my pilot converters. Spicy, getting spicy with the converters. Hi, Magical Quill. I found a Con 50 in a drawer the other day that I had no idea I owned. Yeah, the Con 50. Wow. I'm not sure how 3D printing one would go. Yeah. Ooh, for dip pen nibs. Yes. Hello, hello. Yeah, using it as a dip pen is a good idea, for sure. I like that. Be easier to do and also would make sense. Yeah, I've only had Con 40s and Con 70s. So, Anything aside from that should be okay. Hopefully. Dip pen nibs are a bit more universal than regular nibs, yeah. And dip pen holders too would be more universal for dip nibs. This is purely my opinion. A converter is more convenient. That is on the front, but I think the cartridge is far more convenient when you think about it, since they're easy to clean. Yeah. As long as you do sort of take care of the cartridge. But also cartridges, I think it depends on which one you're using and how fast they kind of not break down, but like, because they're not meant to be used for forever or for a long time. They're meant to be sort of more portable and stuff. So I guess it depends what kind of cartridge. If it's like no name kind of cartridge. I'm just thinking like Muji brand or something, but I've done quite a few cartridges where I've used them over and over. I haven't used them enough to say how long one would last if you're just re-inking cartridges. But I haven't had, unless you use like an ink that will dye your cartridge, or shimmer inks or something like that. But if you're just using a standard, blue ink or black ink or whatever, that's easy to clean out and won't stain your cartridge, I think they last for a while. Yeah, use a syringe and your pen is not primed. Yeah. Dip the pen, voila. Let gravity do the work too, right? Let your pen sit for a little while. Or if you do refill your cartridge before you write the pen dry, it should still, work its way through pretty quickly. The pile ones hold more than their converters. Isn't that kind of crazy? Like, I guess with the converters, you're working with the, mechanism. It has to take up space in your pen. Whereas a cartridge, you're not. I don't know. It is kind of funny that way. No Bay State blue, but also in general, I don't do noodlers, so. But yeah, be aware of like really saturated, pigmenty, dark, or really bright. In general, like red inks too, orange inks sometimes. They also tend to like be harder to clean out or, Oh, spicy. You're getting modded. Auto mod. I honestly really want to do dip pens. Yeah. You have an antique inkwell. That is so cool. That would be very cool to play around with. Yeah. And it would probably prompt you to use your dip pen a lot more often. If you knew it was sitting there and, you could kind of use it in a daily way. You will give noodlers this? I will not. I can't do it. No can do. Yeah, blue state ink. Careful like dumping it down the sink too. You don't want to ruin your sink. I'm working on an old inkwell I'm mixing up. Yeah. You should. Which dip pens do you have? Alcohol exists. Yeah, I've for cleaning pens, like water is fine. I've kind of I've started using, not started recently, like for a little while now, using distilled water. Especially after I got Putnam Chokuro, which, you need to use distilled water to clean that out. Or even if your pen, you don't use your pen for too long and it doesn't start writing right away, dipping it in a little bit of distilled water will help, because the way that it sort of captures those particles and cleans them out is different than using tap water. And I've also started using distilled water for cleaning out dip pens for the same reason. If you're using dip pens, especially with like shimmer inks and stuff, or pigmented inks, which I do, it's easier to clean it out with distilled water just because of the way it, pulls out those stubborn ink particles sometimes. So for cleaning out pens, that's kind of what I've been sticking to and haven't had an issue. Then there's also like, if you have really stubborn ink, you can always use what's called an ultrasonic cleaner. Yeah, just kind of shake those things off, shake off the ink particles. You have several dip pens, so you have good choices. That's good. You can kind of alternate too. I like that. Yeah, alcohol can be bad for pens. Don't take them anywhere near vintage pens or like special materials, for sure. Spicy miso. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that would be why people aren't using alcohol. Yeah. Yeah, chokoro. That's the one I'm talking about. To clean it out, distilled water does the trick. Um, and there are tools. So like when you're cleaning out an ink, basic tools would be, bowls, obviously. I usually have a bowl where I dump out the dirty ink, or in between, sort of refilling the converter and pushing out the ink. That's what you can use a bowl to do that. And then I have a bowl of or cup of clean water or distilled water. And that's what I use to flush through the pens. But also make sure you have a nasal aspirator or like a bulb syringe, the ones where you use on kids to take out their boogers. The nose syringe that you use on kids. Yes, indeed, exactly. I just saw your comment. That is very useful because, you're pushing water through the feed and cleaning out your pen through the nibs. So that's really, really helpful. I also got some special tools for cleaning out pens from Ian Schoen from Schoen Design. And you can get certain ones for different brands. So like we said, right, there are different nibs, feeds, different sections and stuff like that. So depending on the type of pen you're using, the brand, especially, you may want to clean it with, different tools so that are specific to the design of those pens. But a bulb syringe or those booger suckers are great for just, cleaning out a regular pen and flushing it with some water. You don't need, don't put soap through them. You don't really need to go all in. You don't need to go too harsh on those pens. But definitely use water. Do really good sort of passes through just to make sure you're flushing out any residue, any ink that's sitting there, any other sort of particles that you can capture just by using a pen, like fibers on paper and stuff, can get caught in your nib or make its way through. So that's what we used to call it. Yeah, those kids and their noses. Oh, you used alcohol to clean the glass of the inkwell. Yeah. Yeah, you just never know, what kind of materials, especially with pens. You're never too sure about what kind of materials may have been used, especially if they're older pens or you don't know much about them. And also how harsh something like alcohol can be on them. But Again, Mountain of Ink update. Yeah. Oh. What does it say? Oh, update. Oh, okay. Yeah. Mountain of Ink is a great resource for all kinds of inks, especially if you want to be enabled to buy inks, because I like how there's like, if you like a certain color or a certain specific ink, you can find out ones that are similar to it, or if you can't find an ink that you're looking for, what are some inks that are similar to it, right? Kind of like this, where it's like compares different colors. But yeah, Mountain of Ink will not be doing reviews of Noodlers. Yeah, I wouldn't either. I get that. No, thank you. I think a pen is clean. It still has some color when I rinse it again. Yes, Indy, I have had that happen. And also really annoying about shimmer inks because like it's so, glitter will last forever. It just sticks. It finds those little grooves to stick to, and you'll find that shimmer for a long time. I mean, you'll probably work your way through it, but it's just like, yeah, some inks I've had that happen where like I know I've cleaned it really well, but somehow I still have that ink coming through. Ugh. Yeah, that sucks, spicy miso. I mean, it's like a personal choice, and there are inks I will stay away from just because the inks themselves are like, oh, I just haven't had a good experience with them. Or pens, right? Like I've tried pens that I'm just like, oh, these are not for me. They just, I don't like them. You're allowed to do that, especially if it's your website or your blog or your space. You're allowed to decide what you will or will not share. Like, I don't get it. I had someone leave a negative, kind of a mean comment on just a general negative comment about the stationery community on one of my YouTube videos from a while ago too. It's like a year ago, and just kind of mean-spirited. And I was just like, why are you here? Like, honestly, why are you here? Why are you commenting? No one needs to hear this. Like, it's, we all have our choices. We all make our choices whether or not we want to use a certain type of stationery or for what we use it for. Like, who cares what you use your stationery for? It's your choice. And to judge people for using them in a certain way or, pushing it on other people, it's like, well, just don't watch the videos. Don't comment. Don't be here. Like, just go do your thing. Go do your own thing. You do you. And let people do their own thing too. So, it's not really drama with Noodlers. It's more so a stance that the owner has taken and what the controversies and like the choices that the Noodlers owner has made, and so yeah, if you Google it, you'll see Reddit and other sort of ways of condensing stuff like that. But personally, I don't like to say my experience with certain stationery doesn't always apply to everyone else, but my personal experience with Noodler's products has never been good, and I've tried pens, inks a long time ago, like 5 years ago, not that long ago, when I was first starting out and trying different inks and stuff and kind of expanding my collection with fountain pens and inks. I wanted to try a variety, and I never had a good experience with Noodlers. I just don't know. It's not for me. And just the fact that there's, choices that the brand has made that I just don't align with. So personally, I will not go near Noodlers. But yeah, we all make choices, right? Like we all have to kind of stand by what we want to try and spend our money on. So it is what it is. Once shimmer, always shimmer. It's true. Facts. Oh yeah, the drama with Drew. Yes. Yeah, Goulet pens is also something else I will not do. So yeah. Yeah, spicy. Yeah, I just won't recommend the stuff. Like, I won't keep rehashing why or why not I won't use a certain brand or don't like a certain brand or align with someone, because we all have our values and opinions and things we stand for. But I will not recommend it. I won't repeat recommendations. I won't share anything about them. So, and if asked, I will, of course, share my personal opinion and my experience. So, you love your platinum pens. Yeah, I do too, Indy. I just won't have any more because they're so costly. I'll stick to my 13776 and I'll get preppies. Platinum preppy is a great yeah, daily tea. If you like the Pilot Kakuno, maybe look into the platinum preppy too. Or maybe you have and you decided to go with the Kakuno. But they're, along the lines of like a good reliable pen that's not super expensive. And you can play around with them too. Yeah, more of not a nice person. It's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I agree with you, Spicy. If I just don't like an ink or a product, it's just not for me. Terrible experience with it. I'm just not going to use it. I'm just not going to recommend it. I don't think I've tried nitrogen inks. I just like, why? I just feel like I don't have to. Oh, Tai, yeah. You weren't sure what was going on with them. Yeah. There are so many good brands. That's the thing, right? Like in our community, like there in stationery, you have so many choices of really good quality brands, and especially when they are a little bit pricier, right? Like if it's coming from Japan or elsewhere, it's a little pricier. It's like, is it worth it to you, right? So what are you looking at, quality or how long something lasts, how durable something is, or stuff like that. So you kind of have to take into account things that are important to you to basically make up your mind in terms of, is it worth it? Is it valuable? Do I want this? There are objectively good pens, good brands, just depending on the quality and consistency of that quality, right? Like if you get one Pilot pen, writes nicely, but then you just don't see that consistency, you're more likely not to get more Pilot pens. I'm just using Pilot because I've never had an issue with a Pilot pen, but if you do once in a while, it's one thing. But if you always have issues with just like the consistency, the quality, then you're more likely not to get it. Ackerman. Oh, okay. Yeah, have not tried them, but I've heard. Yeah. Yeah, to go into drama or like just, it is what it is. You want to avoid Lamy just because of the Harry Potter collab. Yeah. See, I mean, I get that too, right? And there's always going to be these sort of, you have to think about collaborations, partnerships, what's going on in the background, and spend your money where you want to support the brand, support what they stand for, or the product that they're making, right? You get to make that choice. It's your money. And money talks, right? So I always kind of like to, it's hard to do it with everything, but it's a good thing to look into the type of brands you're supporting or the retailers or the shops, artists, designers, right? To look into them a little bit. Like, you know, if I want to continue supporting X, Y, and Z, like, do they align with what I believe in or stand for, or, you know? And it's like, it is just stationery, right? Like, I've heard that it's just stationery, but at the end of the day, you're spending money. You're spending hard-earned money on stationery. You get to choose. You get to choose who gets that money, and what they spend that money on, right? So I just think, unless it's free stationery, you know, if you're spending money on it, you get to choose who you give that money to. Oh, it is sad if you can't find a dupe, especially also if it's like discontinued, right? Like, talk about discontinued inks that, or like really hard to find all of a sudden, limited edition, or just like they no longer carry it or something like that. It's like, oh, it's tough. It's like you find that color or that ink or, you know, that pen, and it's like, oh. You don't like the triangle grip of the Lamis. Yeah, it's more so like, I don't know if it's meant to be a design or like to help like beginners on like how to hold your pen, but it is very noticeable if it bothers you. So yeah, it is a specific grip. Diamine makes Ackerman. Oh, okay. That's the connection. Yeah, I think I knew that, maybe. Yeah, their safari pens are good. Especially, I mean, for me, they're more like starter pens. And I feel like personally there are other good starter pens, or pens that, you know, you can just use for like note taking or something like that. Like, just to use a fountain pen. I feel like there's a lot of different choices out there. Yeah, now you avoided indie. Yeah, I totally see that. Me too. I just don't really want anything to do with, like, you know, where I don't align with the values. I don't want to, in a backward kind of way, support it. So I'm someone that loves the universe and space stuff. Oh, has the name Galileo. Yeah, archival inks and document inks are good too. But good luck removing it, right? Yes, they do last. They do last forever. Yeah. Yeah, I don't align with the values is a good way of sort of like, we make our choices, right? Based on whether or not we like the design, whether or not we are drawn to the product. But at the same time, we also, I think, should be making decisions, especially for spending money on something to support a brand or a retailer or something like that. If we're supporting someone, I think, you know, if it's something that aligns with your values, I think there's something to be said about putting money towards that. And it goes with like supporting local and small makers and small shops too, and just making a statement that way, right? Like, if you want to support someone who's in your area, or a friend, you know, that too, that goes a long way. But I definitely will not be spending money or buying something that's controversial to what I believe in, or, you know, like, it is just stuff and just stationery, but money gives us power as a consumer to send a message and to make a statement, you know, so putting it towards something that means something to you, I think, is powerful. So yeah, just adding some details to this drawing. Not too much though, because I don't want to take away from the colors. Like that's why I use a like ultra fine point. And also I use some of that white space to outline a little bit so you can see the shapes, especially in the dark areas where you can't really see a fine point line, but you can kind of see it around it, and that sort of encloses the different shapes and what it's going to be. So just adding a little bit of line work helps to, you know, add some detail, show where, if there's like petals, or are they leaves, or, you know, are they the flower petals? That kind of helps. So it's not necessary, but I like to do it just because when I look at it right away, I can kind of see, you know, the distinct, like distinct flowers versus stems versus leaves and stuff like that. So very easy. Doesn't take too long at all. Fun. You should ban Automod. Spicy miso. It's because you're being a spicy miso. You're too funny. Oh yeah. I'm trying to, there's quite a few discords and group chats and stuff like that with fountain pen people, Daily Tea. The Pen Addict also has a Slack if you're interested in that. Discords, I think Ink Dependence Mike has one. There's a few people who have Discords, if you ask around too. I'm in the Pen Addict Slack and some local sort of Discord groups. There's also Atlas Stationery has a Discord. Esterbrook has a Discord. I don't think it's that active. It's sort of active. Atlas Pens is pretty active. Yeah, but yeah, in the community, there are community Discords for sure. Yeah, if you can't do in-person events. Yeah. It's getting hard to navigate these. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, Tai Tai, for sure. People can change their views as well. Yeah. And at the same time, too, it's like, you know, do you have the time and the energy to be able to look into all of the brands and all of the people and designers and artists that you may support by simply sharing their post, or, you know, by buying like one small thing? Like it can be, you know, time consuming. It can be hard. It can be, or you might not find out about things like this unless, you know, someone brings it up or it sort of gets shared in the community and stuff like that. So it is tough. So my kind of take is just when I come across something about a brand or about, you know, someone that I might be supporting, it's up to me to make that choice of, do I continue, or is this something that just does not align with what I believe in or what I stand for? And then do I stop sharing about them? Do I stop recommending them? Right? Like it's one of those things where you have to balance, like, are you able to put time and effort to looking into someone, but also once you know what they might stand for or something that they came out with, then do you follow that? Do you follow it through to see if they are open to discussion about it? Are they open to change? Or is this something that like they've always stood for? That's their, you know, their take on things. And if that's the case and it doesn't align with my values, I walk away, right? So I think that's also kind of the work that people who have been in the community for a while, that's the kind of work they do, is they call people out and brands out if they see something that, might be something that they should talk about, something that they should bring out in the open. And then it's up to sort of the rest of the community to either, make a choice about it or to move on. And, when you're thinking about something like stationery, a lot of people who use stationery are not ingrained in the community in a way that they know everything about what's going on. And so they're kind of just like, I just want a notebook. I just want a pen. Like, I'm just going to buy my Pilot pen and move on. And that's fine. You do you buy wherever you want to buy. It's your choice. If you like a certain color of ink, get the color of ink that you like. But also know that there are real people behind these products. There are real companies and brands, and they all make choices too. So if they're allowed to make their choices to, stand behind a message, and that message doesn't resonate with you, you're allowed to make the choice to walk away from them. So that's kind of where I stand. But I totally get it, where it's like, it's hard to keep tabs on like who's saying what, and but I feel like if it comes to my attention and it's something that I just cannot align with, then I will just move on. I won't recommend them. I won't share about them. I won't, so it is these choices that we have to make can be personal, and also they can take time and a lot of thought too on your end, right? Like as a consumer, you have to think about, is this something that I just won't stand with? Before buying an ink, always look at Mountain of Inks. Yeah. I usually do just like generally Google or look up. Like Olive Octopus is a great resource for inks. Mountain of Ink. Well Appointed Desk too. I think Anna has been posting a lot more about like products and inks and stuff. I think she always did reviews, right? But I generally look at trusted sources, or sources where I'm like, you know what, I like, or I kind of align with the way they look at, products and stuff. And I trust their recommendations. So that I do kind of the same thing, Spicy, where I just kind of look at like the inks and the products that I want to get, and then kind of choose from that. Like, am I going to get it or not? Pen Addict, obviously, is a great resource as well for like all products. You're in the Ink Dependence Discord and it's fun. It's small and not very busy. Yeah, people are very nice and helpful. Yeah. They're the supportive part of the community. Those are the nicer people. Although I've never really come into contact with mean people, just probably like trolls and bots on YouTube. I don't pay attention to, but I'll never judge people for what they buy unless it's a Cybertruck. Oh my goodness, that is fact. I judge those people pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie. Ooh. Just like, I judge too, like, if you think something like that looks good. I buy what I can afford. Yeah, definitely. Buy what's in your budget, right? And if it's worth, even if you can afford something, I always look at like, is it worth it, right? Is it something that I can see myself using often, or for a specific purpose, right? And if it's not, I'm just getting it because other people are getting it. It's a FOMO thing or whatever. It's like, look inside yourself and reevaluate whether you need it or want it. Sometimes you don't actually want it. Yeah, branding often hides some of these things. I feel like nowadays too, sometimes it's I feel like nowadays it's a little bit more out in the open in terms of brands' values and stuff like that, where they stand. Because I also feel like it's become a lot more humanity based, right? It's not just like simple things or where you're kind of like, this is your opinion or point of view. Now it's become like, well, that point of view can be dangerous, can be, it's can harm people. And I feel like those are, they're make and break situations. Yeah, to be fair, you can't know about the controversy all the time unless you hear from someone, unless someone calls it out, right? Yeah. Or they share it themselves and you're like, oh, you were good until then. You tell me you haven't gotten Sailor a kiwi. What if I said I don't like Sailor a kiwi spicy? It's not true. I do like it, but I'd just be curious to know what you would say. Yeah, you're quite new to this hobby. Only recently discovered that sheening inks actually sheen. You thought it was like a different color. Yeah. And then sheening inks. At first I was like, it's kind of cool. But man, they take so long to dry too. Yeah, they are ugly. Watch it, Indie. So funny. Yeah, be careful with sheening inks. Some can behave bad. Yeah, some are just like not fun. But you could just paint with it and just like let it sit until it dries finally. If it ever dries. I've tried some sheening inks where it's just like days later I will accidentally sort of, rub my finger on top of it and it smudges. It's like, why? How are you not dry? I don't get it. Do you just sit there and wait for me to smudge? Like, just yeah, they dry slower. It just and then sheening inks, like there are some that just have a bit of sheen. And then there are inks that are like heavy sheeners, like they are just formulated in a way where you get a lot of sheen. And those, I think those are more likely to be the ones that just don't dry. I guess depending on the paper you use as well, probably. Yeah. Yeah. It is tough to know what to do with brands, their values, the things that they stand for, and how it sort of falls into your world and our world, and what you want to do about it, basically. So while we're chatting, I'm going to finish up this spread. And what I usually do is I just do a little journaling because I have this white space here. And like I said, I don't use it like for planning or anything. So what I end up doing is using prompts and then just adding a little bit of personal thought to it. And this year I'm using this book called The Pivot Year. And I like it because it has 365 days of daily passages or prompts that are just kind of meant to help you reflect on your life, on your path, on what you want to sort of get done, your intentions for the year, and whether or not you're kind of, how you're sort of coming at it, for the lack of a better word, but how you're sort of, your perspective on how your life is going, how your year is going day by day, whether or not you're moving forward towards your goal and towards who you want to sort of become in that year, right? So how I'm using it is basically just, every day that I get to do this, I just read the passage and transcribe a sentence or two just to have it in writing. And then add a little bit of personal reflection or anything that comes to mind where it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, this kind of reminds me of this, or this is how I think about it, or my perspective on it, or anything like that. So basically anything that comes to mind once after I read it and think about it for a little bit. So on top of just being able to use fountain pens and other tools for journaling, and kind of filling up space without having to come up with something to write there, it also kind of lets me practice writing from a prompt and allowing a prompt to help me think outside of just, you know, my daily happenings and things that are happening in, you know, my life and highlights, which normally is what you could journal about, and what I do journal about. But in this space, I like to think about a prompt or, you know, something to write about. That's kind of big picture thinking, point of view, you know. So dating this the 2nd of March. And again, using my brush pen to do the hand lettering, but also just kind of the header section. Using the same fountain pen, my Leonardo. Oh, thank you, Magical Quill. I prefer shimmer to sheen. Yeah, personally, I do too. I like the look of shimmer as well to sheen, I think. But the inks are super concentrated. Some have high sheen and Monster Sheen ink. Sometimes don't dry. Oh, and sometimes it's sticky. Yeah. Yeah. Shimmers, personally, I find more ink varieties, like color varieties in shimmers. And combinations too. Right? Color versus the shimmer color. This hobby is the best. Yes, I agree with you, Tai Tai. This is the best hobby and community, I think. So many supportive people, so many kind people, so many people who are just like, you know, if stationery brings you joy, then just do it. Keep this. I think after this month, I may try to find a book of journal and poetry prompts to pull from. That's a great idea. The poetry prompts. That's awesome. I like that. To me, medium sheens are the most fun. You get to see the base color shading and the sheen. All of the things. All of the properties. I like that too. A certain someone that didn't get a kiwi yet is telling me she doesn't like a kiwi. I had an kiwi sample and loved it. But I also have Yamabudo as a sample. And I have Warringal Cheshire Cat as an ink bottle. So look, when it comes to bright pinkish, purple, more pinkish, more pinkish shades. I don't know. I just don't feel like I use them often enough to warrant having bottles of all the different magenta. That's what it is. Magenta-ish shades. That's all. But I do think that a kiwi is a really, really nice color or ink. I put quotes from the fantasy books I read in your journal. Yeah. Yeah, anytime I come across a book I'm reading or listening to, or even a podcast, and there's a good quote in it that makes me like stop and think, those are the types of quotes I want to definitely include in my journals or my books. Because it's always kind of nice to like flip through, your journals and then see like on a day where it's like this quote that you're like, oh yeah, it kind of makes you think, or like from songs and stuff, music that you're listening to. It's like, oh, I remember that moment where I was like, wait, this is a great quote or phrase, or yeah. It's neat to use book quotes as a mood tracker in a way. Yeah, and what if it doesn't match your mood? You're just like, get out of here. Yeah, I like that. Life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination. Yeah, you'll pick and choose. Yeah, that makes sense. So what I wrote here is, you're not broken for not being able to effortlessly release. It keeps calling to you because there's something it wants you to do with it. There's something within it that still wants to be seen. So I find that interesting because to me it sort of makes me think about like when you just can't let something go. Either you're working on an idea, or you're working on a project, or something is ongoing, and for some reason you just can't move on from it until you sort of complete it, or you feel like it's complete. A lot of times it's because there's something there that you still kind of need to work out or get from it to feel like it's accomplished. And it is interesting because it's like a feeling that you can't put in, it's not tangible per se. It's not something you can physically or even put into words, like why you're still working on something that, you could just kind of walk away from. But there's always something there that like either you're meant to grow from it, or you're meant to learn something from it, or you may be helping someone else by finishing or completing your project or whatever you're working on. It's just like, it is interesting to think about it like that. There's sometimes a reason why you can't walk away from something, or you don't feel like something is complete until you get something out of it. And you won't know until you get to that point, right? Sometimes it's worth going down that path until you get to a point where it's like, okay, I feel like this is what I was meant to get out of this. Or I've worked through the idea and, come up with something that I can actually do. And yeah, so I kind of like this thought. I need happiness and trauma. They have everything you need. I read 10 books in a year. Okay, yeah, you'll pick from the 10 books. Curry books and last 2 books read. Current books and last 2 read. Curry books. Like, are you reading recipe books? Because that is kind of cool. Writing down quotes from a recipe book. Yeah, curry. Now I'm hungry. Made me kind of think of food now. Thank you. Oh, too funny. Just because we're thinking of like prompts and where else we can get these quotes from. It's kind of funny that spicy miso, you're the one coming in with your curry books. I love it. So good. Sometimes they hide good life advice in those cookbooks. You're not wrong, Magical Quill. You're actually correct. Especially when they have little blurbs, right? Where it's just like a philosophical or like just a general kind of like life statement. You're like, okay, I'm learning things. You read recipe books a few days ago. This is why your autocorrect was like, did you mean curry? You don't do Jamie Oliver. What are some curry books? What are some recipe books I've looked at recently? I don't think I did get a book from the library. This was like a month ago or something, to do with soups, because I was like, I feel like I need to make more soup. Wintry, comfort, yeah, made a tomato soup, just, simple, basic, something that goes with grilled cheese, let me tell you. But if you're not into tomatoes, then pumpkin soup is also nice. I've made that. But yeah, I don't think I've looked at recipe books lately, but I kind of feel like I need to now. Oh, welcome, Fairy Lover. Thanks so much for the follow. I hope you're doing well. I do eat Sri Lankan foods, yes. You remembered my background is Sri Lankan. Also, mostly I eat Sri Lankan foods or Tamil specific food when I visit my family in Toronto, which is where I spent most of my life in Ontario. And there are some really good restaurants and just general like places where you can order Sri Lankan food that's like authentic, right? So the kind of spices, the curries, spice levels that I'm used to or that I grew up with, basically, with my parents cooking. So yeah, I do. Curried crab is a family favorite. And there's a restaurant in Toronto that makes rice and curries and stuff like that, and you can pick and choose which ones you like, and then they fold it into a banana leaf, and so that's very cultural, and it's just one of those things where you're like, you don't have to do that, but it just adds a little touch of a little touch of the culture, which is really nice. So my husband is Kiwi, so he's from New Zealand. And while he loves curries and spicy food, he can't always have the most spiciest. So it's always kind of funny when we visit family, and he's very brave and tries all of the curries and all of the spice. But you can see it in his face, or it's like, ooh, that's a bit much. But it's still, it's still flavorful and really, really yummy. So you miss having crab cakes all the time. Crab is so good, right? It's so good. Oh, really yummy. And goes so well with like curries or stews or just like things where it just like soaks in flavor. And really, really good. No. He's not about Vegemite. He's about Marmite. I was told there's a distinction. Vegemite is Australian. And while it's totally fine, there is a distinction. Marmite comes from New Zealand. Vegemite comes from Australia. Yeah, yeah. Apparently it tastes different. I'm gonna confess, I do not like either. And my husband knows this. I don't like Marmite. I don't like Vegemite. My dad actually, when I was growing up, he loves Marmite, so he would like make Marmite sandwiches and stuff, and I was just like, no, no, thank you. It's the smell of the yeast, or just as very salty. So I can't do it, but my kids love it. So yeah, I can't do it though. I do use him as a guinea pig for spicy stuff. Yeah, for sure. I also, I'm like, this might be a little too spicy, but yeah, I think his tolerance has evolved. So, yeah, Marmite is British as well. Yeah. Although I think there might be a slight difference between Marmite that you actually get, that's British, or like, from London or the UK, versus if you get it directly from New Zealand. But I don't know. I don't know enough about it to have a stance. Yeah. But, tastes and tolerance to spice and different herbs and stuff like that too. Like, yeah, it's one of those things, you either grow up with, certain spices and certain levels, or you're able to work your way through. Yeah, we all have our tastes. Similar to stationery, we all have our tastes, and we all like what we like and don't eat what we don't like. So, but I think that's it for me. It's almost 11 here. I need to sort of get on with my day and make lunch and stuff like that. So, thank you, friends, for joining. This was so fun. Good conversation. Interesting conversation as well. And, great community, great support. I always appreciate it. Always appreciate you. Whether or not you're here in person or you're watching the replay, I always appreciate you being here in some way. You're gonna go back to inking pens. Time for brown ink. Yeah. Which one are you going with? Because I know it's not a kiwi. But yeah, thank you for being here while I kind of do this, and do some memory keeping, in my planner. I kind of like how this turned out in terms of like the palette and the colors and stuff like that. So, definitely something I'm in the mood for. More bright, more vibrant, spring-like colors, and yeah, just kind of reflects the kind of weather we're going into. Yeah, for sure. It was a great time. I learned a lot of things too, in the chats. You've been using a kiwi for 2 months straight? Wow. You are committed, Spicy. You are definitely committed. Okay, so the next time I'm going to be streaming is on Wednesday, same time, same place. So if you want to join that, you are always welcome. I probably will be painting with either inks or paints or something. It's kind of the start of the month, so we'll just kind of be playing with stationery for a while. So if that interests you, then I'll see you then, or I'll see you in the replays. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm from Corolla. Usually I post a story just as a reminder for streams, because we can get busy, we can forget, sometimes notifications don't work on Twitch. So follow me there if you want to kind of stay in the know. And otherwise, I'll see you there. I'm Corolla. Welcome. But I'll see you next time. And until then, have a great day. Have a great week. take care of yourself, take care of others. Go play with stationery. Go use your stationery supplies. And if you're getting something new, enjoy it. Enjoy it and share your thoughts and let us know how you like your new stationery as well. Okay? Bye, friends. I'll see you next time.